ready?
Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Oscar.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
And etc.
Now, Bears Etc., brought to you by Geico, with the voices of the Bears, Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer.
Have you heard of the Minnesota Miracle? That's how it went down on Thursday, September 19th, 1985, 33-24. Bears went over to the Vikings. First sentence in the Chicago Tribune the next morning. Jim McMahon came off the Bears bench and threw himself into the national consciousness. With Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak, and this is episode 119 of the Bears Etc. podcast. It's brought to you by Geico. We celebrate the black and blue division of the past. As it stands right now, it's going to be the black and blue division for the foreseeable future as well in the NFC North. Bears-Vikings on Monday night, kickoff at 7 on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network against the impressive Vikings. We welcome in our special guest, the man who also was a part of that unbelievable 3-touchdown and 7-play explosion. The one and only Willie Gault, 18th pick of the 1983 draft, played 11 seasons in the NFL, 5 with the Bears, 6 with the Raiders, had put up over 6,600 yards, 87 touchdowns, and number 83 on the Bears' top 100, Tom Thayer at number 84. So we got two Super Bowl Bears, and you got, so everybody can't see this, so we only use the audio, but they were both in the Hula Bowl back in the day, and they took out their plaques. I love. Start there, your relationship and where you guys started, because that draft produced, 7 or 8 starters in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, it was really a fantastic draft for the Bears, actually, when you look back at it. I mean, to get someone like Richard Dent and Tom and, of course, Jimbo Covert, Dave Durison, Mike Richardson at the time. And, I mean, we had a great – and Dennis McKinnon, who we both started. It was a really great draft for us.
Bortzy, Pat Dunsmore.
Yeah.
There's that. That was a great draft, but I always laugh about this roster because you look at this roster from the Hula Bowl. Not only I'm not going to talk about Willie not knowing that I didn't play in this game with him, Jeff. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to update all the Bears.
Sorry, that's true. Absolutely.
This is just awesome. I asked Willie. We were in the locker room one day. I go, Willie, did anybody on this team play in the Hula Bowl with you? And he goes, yeah, Mike Richardson was there and Dave Durison was there. I know those guys played. And I go, well, Willie, me and Jimbo were there as well. But, Willie, when I was told that after practice one day, they go, hey, you have an invitation to the Hula Bowl. It could have been one of the biggest thrills of my life back then, because when you got invited to these bowl games, the Hula Bowl was one of the biggest all-star games there were in college football at that time. And when I got invited, it was like such an overwhelming honor. And then you look at some of the guys on this list and what's become of them and where they've gone in their career. You look at just guys like Roger Craig and Eric Dickerson and Dave Marino, guys like that it's just an all-star selection of all-stars, and Jimbo and Bruce Smith and all those guys as well. However, it was a great opportunity for me because I got to meet a lot of the guys, the superstars that I've heard about and read about, and then I got a chance to be on the same practice field as all you guys. And for me, it was an enormous honor in my football life.
Oh, it was quite an honor. And to this day, Eric Dickerson and I are one best friends. We first met there and we traded jerseys. I still have his jersey, his number 19 SMU jersey. And we talk about it when I see him sometimes. We talk about it. And but yeah, it was great. It was a great honor. And to think about it, to go to Hawaii, man, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to Hawaii for the first time. So it was really, really cool.
Well, no one was faster on that team, I'll tell you that, on that Hula Bowl team, than Willie Gault.
No one was faster. I would have bet you on that one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I would say.
So we're kind of celebrating the division here. and go back to that. 39 years ago on a Thursday night at the old Metrodome, for those Bears fans maybe not even born yet in downtown Minneapolis, it really was a startling performance. I remember it was my first year covering sports. I covered training camp at the 85 Bears, but I was watching that game on television with my friends because that's what happened back in those days. If you didn't have tickets or you weren't covering everybody who had these big parties to watch the 85 Bears, 33-24. But it was also significant in that Tom Thayer gets inserted in that game, Willie, that you were inserted at right guard, and you never left the field the rest of your career.
No, I actually, it was in the middle of the first quarter that I got inserted in the game. But the thing about it is I didn't play at all in the first and second game. So I was pouting and I was sitting on the bench and I was angry. And so I took the third bus, the only time in my career I took a bus to the game. And I took the last bus, Jeff, and you know me, how that just doesn't sit. So I didn't get my ankles taped. I didn't tape my wrist and my hands and everything. I just went out there. I had low-cut shoes on and everything. Middle of the first quarter, Dick Stanfield came up and said, "Hey, Becker got hurt. You're in." And so you have that instance of notice. And I went in there and I nearly sprained my ankle as soon as I got in the game. Ran in the locker room at halftime, got my ankles taped, put on high-top shoes, spatted over my shoes, taped up my wrist and fingers and hands and everything. And then the rest. But, Willie, the touchdown catch the first one, you caught the first touchdown when McMahon came in.
70 yards.
Oh, yeah. But
76, to be exact.
Yes. But it's almost because what can figure there for me is the blitzer was coming up and back and up and back. And
correct.
Walter and I had to be on the same page of the whereabouts of that blitzer because if he comes up to the line of scrimmage, he's my responsibility. If he's off the line of scrimmage, he's Walter's responsibility. But he was coming up and coming back. And so when the ball was snapped, he was off and I went to block my defensive lineman. And that's when Walter had one of the most famous blocks in Chicago Bear history.
Yeah. Without that, the play didn't work. Absolutely.
Right. And the thing about it with McMahon coming in the game and already being a little dinged up, if Walter and I would have miscommunicated there and that guy hit Walter with a full speed.
Yeah, hit Jim with full speed, he'd been out for the rest of the year. I've been over. That may have been our Super Bowl too, you know?
Wow, you know, that's the beauty of this game, right? Like the things that almost happen or don't happen that could spell one snap can change the whole trajectory of a championship chase.
You're right. And the thing about it, Tom will tell you this, no matter what the record was, Minnesota was always tough against the Bears. They always played us tough. They just knew. Also Green Bay, no matter what the records were, we could be winless or they could have one win or we could have one win. But when we played each other, it was always a tough and tight game because we knew each other's tendencies and we played very well against each other.
So the linebacker on that play, I always thought, in my mind, I always thought it was Joey Browner, but I read the Chicago Tribune article. It was Dennis Johnson, a linebacker. Mm-hmm. But I just saw the highlight. Jim actually stumbles on his drop.
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
but there's Willie Gault blowing through the back end of the defense. You ran like a deer. Like, that's the best way. You know, is that a compliment or is that not good enough? Like, you ran like a deer.
No, that's great. I mean, I was blessed. Really, I was fast. I've been fast all my life. Really, when I was 6 years old, I was fastest kid in 2 grades up. So I always knew speed, and I always relished in it and understood it and tried to respect it. You know, and I did my best as a player. You know, with my opportunities. Back in my day, we didn't throw the ball a lot because we had this guy named Walter Payton, who was arguably the best running back ever. So we were really a balanced offense. Even though I led the team each year with 34 catches, 36 catches, 40 catches, we just didn't throw the ball that much. And we had responsibilities. Back then, it wasn't like today, man. If a receiver doesn't catch 100 passes, they cry like a baby. Back then, it's our job to run decoy and block and all those things. I wasn't a great blocker, but I got in people's way when I had to. And I played 12 years and never missed a season, never missed a game, another down. So I was blessed with that. And to have players like Tom and Jimbo, who I talked to a couple of weeks ago, and McMahon, I see a lot on the golf course, and Dent and McKinnon. We built relationships that last forever. And we're getting older now, but, it's a time that we'll never forget as long as we live. And it will be unmatched in the history of the sport. No one will ever do exactly the way we did it. And it was really unique.
Willie, for the Bears here 3 weeks ago, Keenan Allen was targeted 15 times.
Yeah.
Do you know the most you were targeted in a game?
Probably 5, maybe 6 at the most. Because I think the most I caught in a game was 4 passes or 5 passes, maybe. Yeah, that's about it.
I guess the evolution of football, I'm kind of jealous because I see what these guys go through in training camp and what we went through in training camp.
What they don't go through in training camp.
Right. Well, that was kind of leading to my question. You think of the passing game in the NFL today, and are you jealous of the evolution of football nowadays in comparison to what we went through? But are you I'm so appreciative of the Super Bowl experience that I don't get jealous. I just envy how much money they're making, or the fact that they're not going through 5 straight weeks of 2-a-days.
Yeah, I think jealousy would be too strong of a word. I'm not jealous. I think in our day, if we had the same process, I think it'd be much different. I mean, think about it. These guys can't practice 2 days in a row. They can't hit 2 days in a row in practice. We hit every day for a week, a couple of weeks before, so it's crazy. And in the game, you can't hit a guy in the head. You can't, you can't do all these things. You can't hit him 5 yards past. We got hit all the time down the field when the ball's not in the air. We can get hit anywhere. So the game is much safer, of course, and that's the evolution of the game. And like you said, I mean, these guys are making so much money. I guess it's all relative, but, a guy signs $130 million guaranteed contract, a wide receiver. I mean, it's like, wow, $130 million, that's a lot of money. But, it's part of the game. And unfortunately for us, we didn't have that. But, we also set a tone that will be remembered forever. The 85 Bears will go down in history as one of the greatest teams ever. And, no one can say anything about it because it's already done. It's in the history book.
Willie Gault, our guest here on Bears Etc. Bears fan, Steinhoffel's a proud partner of the Chicago Bears. This Bears season, Steinhoffel's is partnering with Special Spaces Illinois to create dream bedrooms for children battling cancer. And so for every false start caused by the Bears defense during a home game, Steinhoffel's donates $1,000 to Special Spaces Illinois. Shop in store and online at steinhoffels.com. I just did a quick check on Pro Football Reference. You had 9 catches in a game as a Raider. And you're
Raider, not bad.
7 against Cincinnati in 1986 for the Bears.
That's right. 7. Okay, great. I said 6.
I got to give you your due, man. I can't imagine what your numbers would be in today's game.
Catches and no drops. See, the thing about this, Tom, which is crazy, I had a reputation of dropping passes, which I hardly ever drop passes. I only got like 2 or 3 thrown to me. If I drop 1, that's 50%. Okay, great. If I got 3 thrown to me, that's a third, and I dropped 1. But the thing about it, it's no secret. A quarterback is going to throw bad passes or interception. A receiver is going to drop passes. A running back is going to fumble every once in a while. A lineman is going to miss a block, or a defensive tackle is going to miss a tackle. It's part of the game. But, it's just one of those things where if one person says it, then everybody just sort of falls in and go, oh, my God. I think if I calculate, I tried to, my drop ratio compared to everyone, Jerry Rice and everyone else, was probably better than theirs because I didn't really get that many thrown to me. So it's one of those things that really bugs me sometimes when I hear a lady on TV say, well, Willie Gault, he was great, but he was known for dropping passes. I go, what are you talking about? Or a guy who says that. Like, it's not even true. So it's crazy. But anyway, it all makes sense.
When you came in as a rookie, so I signed in the USFL, and I look at other guys on the list from the Hula Bowl. Anthony Carter did as well. Yeah. So when the expectation that was placed on you by Ditka, was it something that was different than your college experience of the expectations that were put on you, or did they have high expectations for you because you came in with world-class speed?
The expectation was the same, actually. In college, it was actually more expectation because I ran kickoffs back and punts back and a receiver. In the NFL, I started both punt return and kickoff return, but as you know, I think in the 3rd or 4th game, they wouldn't allow me to return punts anymore because they thought I'd get hurt. And it was, easier. And then I started returning kickoffs sparingly, but then the next year I did. So the expectation was the same for me. It was the same. I tried to pride myself on being on time, knowing my plays, not making mistakes. and being in shape. And that's what I was. I ran down the field almost full speed every time to clear it out for Walter. And I knew that was my responsibility. And I accepted that responsibility as a team player, because that's what football is for me. It's a team sport. It's not an individual sport like track and field. Track and field is an individual sport where you can go out. It's you against the clock, it's you against the next person, and that's it. But in football, it takes a lot of things to happen for a receiver to get a pass from. It has to be called. The play has to be called by the coach. The quarterback gets it. The defense has to have the right defense. The lineman has to block right. He has to have time to throw the ball, has to throw the ball perfectly almost. So, and you got to catch it. So a lot of things have to happen. But the one thing that you can do is you can control you being on time, you knowing your plays, you being in shape, and you doing your best that you can do.
So when I got there in '85, I was on kickoff return, and I was on kickoff return into the very last game of my NFL career. Did you return the touchdown against the Cleveland Browns?
No, that was me against Washington.
Okay, Washington.
Right, I had a 100-yard touchdown. They were leading us, I think, 14 and nothing or something like that. And I returned the kickoff 99 yards, and then the punter missed the punt. Remember, and they got because the punter got hurt trying to tackle me.
Right.
And so they had a replacement punter, and then he missed the punt, and then Sean Gale just scooped it up for a touchdown. We went 14, and then we blew him out.
Yeah, that was the Giants game where Sean Landeta missed the punt.
Wow.
But it was Joe Theismann in the Washington game that kicked the 2-yard punt or negative 2-yard punt. So, you just think of all those circumstances that happened throughout our career.
I know. Crazy.
One thing more about that game, and I'll put that one to bed against. I went back and looked. Okay, so you had Bud Grant on one side, Coach Ditka. The running back coach of the Vikings was Mark Trestman. The defensive back coach was Pete Carroll.
Oh, wow. Pete Carroll.
And Jeff Fisher was a Bears assistant. Mike Singletary, of course, went on to be a head coach. Ron Rivera was a head coach. You got all these Hall of Famers. That game had a lot of talent in it. A lot of talent in that one game. All right, you mentioned track and field. Are you still running competitively?
I still run, yes. I still work out, and I didn't compete last year just because it was a crazy year. But I still train and still run, yes.
So born with speed, but to maintain the speed over a lifetime into your 50s and 60s, how the heck did that happen?
You just never stop. If you stop, you're done. You just can't do it. So I've never really stopped running, never stopped working out since I retired. I stayed active in track and field, mastered, and just stay running, still lift, still eat right. I still try to do the same things I did when I was running and when I was playing. Same weight, still weigh about 172.
Oh, come on.
Same weight as I did in high school and college. So, yeah, same.
We're all the same age. I'm 62, Tom's 63. You're 63, right?
Yeah,
First of all,
64.
There's not a gray hair on his head. There's not a wrinkle. No. He looks like he should throw the uniform on and let's go. Let's go.
I will say this one thing about Willie, what was always funny. So like Jay and I or whatever, as being linemen, we would sit there and we would flex our calves like we had big calves. And then Willie would come up and he would flex his calf and it would be like a bicep on the top of his leg that was just enormous. And he would always say, look, this is what a calf looks like. It's not those slugs you guys are carrying around at the end of your ankles, but it's, the little things that you remember and, that you continue to appreciate, man.
We had a great time. I mean, I always played with Tom and Jim, and it was crazy. I used to grab them, try to choke them, I try to squeeze them to death, and they just flick me off. But we had great times. I mean, we have great relationships, and it'll last forever. We're friends forever.
Just so everybody knows, it wasn't just football, Tommy. The track accolades are, it's 35 years in track and field, 14 world records. And the one that I never talked to you about this over the time of my career with the Bears. You were a member of that 1980 U.S. men's Olympic team that did not compete in the Moscow Summer Games. Does that still hurt you that you guys were not able to do that? That was a group, and then you set the world record in the 4x100 with some great names in track and field, Emmett King, Calvin Smith, and, of course, the great Carl Lewis. But what was that experience like, 1980, not able to go?
Well, it was actually at the time, you're so young, you don't realize exactly what it means. And you're like, okay, no problem. We'll just make the next Olympic team. But in hindsight, when you look back at it, it was a big mistake by the president. President Carter decided for us not to go. It would have been better if we'd gone, beating them on their own turf. I think it would have sent a better message. But the thing that happened also is that we had an alternative Olympics. There was 2 Olympics that year. There was the one in Moscow that was the Olympics. And then there was the one with the Americans that we actually had more countries. We had 34 nations and Russia had 17 nations. And at that Olympics, I did win a gold medal in the relay. It was not as great as being at the other Olympics, but I did also make the Winter Olympic team, the bobsledding, that we got 4th in the bobsledding in Calgary. So I had that experience twice, which was unmatched. And then also I made the World Championship team, which we broke the world's record in the 4x100 meter relay, and also I won a bronze medal in the hurdles. It was a great experience. I love track and field. It's probably my first love. It's the one sport that I knew I could control. Football, you can't control. Team sports is hard because it's just so many people, and you don't have really the control. But in track, either you do the work and win, or you don't do the work and you don't win. It shows up. So I was very passionate about it, and it actually helped me in football. Transversely, football helped me in track and field. Football gave me the toughness to be a hurdler and to be tough in running. And running gave me the speed in football to be able to run away from someone and know that on any given Sunday, I was the fastest guy on the field. And I relished in that.
Willie, do you pay attention to speed in the NFL now of a guy like Tyreek Hill or Worthy with Kansas City? Is there anybody that, since your time, has really impressed you of going, wow, this guy has got what it takes to be a great runner and a football player, but a great runner first?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love speed. And there are guys that have speed. Of course, Tyreek Hill comes to mind because he is one of the fastest guys there. And the guy at Kansas City is pretty fast, pretty quick. I mean, Tyreek Hill was actually a track runner, so I can go back and look at his time and see what he ran. The guy, what's his name at Kansas City?
Worthy.
Xavier Worthy.
Worthy. Yeah. Worthy was not really a track guy, but he did run. I think his time wasn't that impressive, but his 40 time was great. But the one thing people don't know about 40 times is this. The 40 times go off your reaction. In track and field, you go off the gun's reaction. So the gun's reaction is going to be slower. You're going to be slower. So consequently, your 40 times will be faster than you would be in a track meet because you're going off the gun. You're really about usually a second slower, half a second slower because of the gun. So, a lot of people don't understand that. And so they have a misnomer about the speed in track and the speed in football, how it correlates. But, look, the guys are quick, and football is quickness because you don't have to run 100 meters, really. You got to run 30, 40, 50 meters. And that's basically a football field, basically.
Willie,
so shorten it down.
One thing about it is when I see you, and I've known you in person since you've been a young kid, and I see Tyreek Hill for the first time on a football field, you're a leaner fast, and
Correct.
He's a thicker fast. And
Correct.
it's amazing to me that both of you guys can have this world-class speed about you, but you're a different shape, you're a different template of speed. And that always kind of amazes me.
Well, think about this. Tyreek Hill is shorter, so he's going to be quicker. I'm taller, so my strides will be a little longer. Think about Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt is somewhat of a freak because he's taller, but yet he's as quick as the smaller guys. When you're shorter, your legs gets to a place faster as opposed to the long striding. So Tyreek is quick and he's still powerful. But my quickness is in a elongated standpoint. You may beat me for 10 or 20 yards, but after that, I'm coming really fast. And that's the same thing with Usain Bolt. And that's the thing that we have. We have the quickness and the speed. It's a combination. And Worthy has a little bit of both, I think. I don't know how his, past 50-yard is because, that's 100 meters. And I usually judge everyone by 100 meters. I mean, 40 for me is a bastard time. It doesn't really matter distance. It doesn't really matter. It matters in football, but it doesn't matter in track and field. The only thing that matters in track and field is the 60s indoors and the 100 meters outdoors because that determines the world's fastest man. So that's how I determine speed.
Willie, it's been amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for the time. Thanks for catching up. I hope you're still watching our Bears. I know you're out there in California. Once a Bear, always a Bear.
Rooting for the Bears. Always rooting for the Bears. I know they're going through their things, but they're going to be okay. I mean, you got to be positive. They'll be fine. And anytime Tom called me, I have to pick up because he's my guy. He's on my Hula Bowl list here, so I have to pick up. He's my buddy.
Right.
And he's my teammate.
It's amazing, Willie, that we both still have these.
I know, right?
You know, the 1983 Hula Bowl and some of the personalities, and it meant a lot. It meant a lot to me.
All right, Tom, having Willie was cool. I see you light up every time we do interview with one of your teammates. I mean, it's like for you, it's like the memories are so vivid that you could just see on your face how excited you get talking about them, as you should.
Every one of them, though, from top to bottom. And, you know, that was kind of the unique quality of the old Hallis Hall, Jeff. We had no escapability. There was no secret room you could go to. There was nowhere other than the locker room, the meeting room, in the weight room. And that's how we got to know each other so well. You know, and Willie will always have kind of a special place in my heart because I did meet him in college. We did go to an all-star game together. You kind of had a chance and an opportunity to meet him a little bit and then learn a lot more about him throughout the course of time. And I really admire all of Willie's accomplishments and kind of still the path that he sets him for himself that I think it's important for young people to see.
Man, he looks good. I'm certain he's not getting new hips and new knees. I mean, he looks like he's ready to keep running.
He does, and that's the thing. Every time, you know, that comment you say, oh, it looks like you could still put on the pads. There's not a lot of guys that in all actuality could do that. Right. But Willie he has that same resemblance of when he was a world-class sprinter and a number 1 round draft choice. He's got the same body weight, the same look, the same physique, and like you said, no gray hair. And so, I mean, Willie has done a great job of keeping himself fit. And like I said, he's a great example for younger players to follow.
He's an example for all of us that he's still at his playing weight at 170 something. That's it. And so back to that game real quick before we talk about our game. So Steve Fuller was the starting QB. He was 13 of 18, 124, but threw a pick. The McMahon, who was badgering Ditka on the sidelines, you were probably listening to it yourself. You probably was in earshot of it. But he was in traction during the week at Lake Forest Hospital. So there was no way he was playing, right? But there was a story that was written, and I don't know if you know this. There was a practice on a Saturday, and Joe Namath was in town. And they were sitting on the bleachers talking, and that was apparently his hero, Joe Willie Namath. And so he was really mad that he was not going to be able to play on ABC with Joe Namath, right? So talks his way into the game, and then first snap, touchdown. 7 snaps, 3 touchdowns.
First of all, he was badgering Ditka so badly that Ditka took his helmet away from him. And they told him, to the equipment manager, take his helmet, put it away, and don't tell him where it is. So then finally, Jim McMahon badgered him so relentlessly on the sideline, Ditka said, get his helmet, get in the game, and slapped him on the back and pushed him in there. And that's what and McMahon was saying on the sideline, what are you going to do? You're not going to put me in the game and you're going to let us lose this game? Just put me in the game. Put him in, and like you said, touchdown.
Yeah, Bears trailed 17-9 at that point, third quarter with about 7:30 to go in the game, something like that. Anyway, but in addition to that, again, the names. Okay, so Ming had 2 sacks. Dan Hampton had a sack. Richard Dent these are Hall of Fame players. And then just the significance of that, do you feel that win did more for the team and its swagger than any other game for the rest of the season leading up to the Super Bowl?
1,000%.
Yeah.
And I know that's an over-exaggerated number because it can only be 100%, but at 1,000%, that was Thursday night edition of Monday Night Football. Everybody in the NFL world was watching that game, and they were kind of suspicious of what the Bears could be, the way they concluded the 84 season and the type of records they set.
Plus,
then.
Wasn't the Tampa game a rough one, too, to start the season? You guys dug out of a hole.
The New England game and the Tampa game were rough ones to start the season. Then all of a sudden we went into this environment that when you take the field as an offensive player, it's as loud as you can possibly imagine a stadium being. And then all of a sudden the Bears defense come in and they shut that stadium down. I mean, you could have heard somebody walking up the stairs as they were leaving the game in the fourth quarter.
Do you recall, or had you ears on Ditka greeting McMahon at the sideline after the 70-yard bomb?
Well, he greeted him there, but it was something like McMahon said something to Ditka, like, aren't you glad you put me in the game? Or there was some comment made to McMahon first to Ditka before Ditka could say anything.
Oh, my God. Well, that you would expect that from Jim, right?
Yeah.
So 7 starters in the 85 Super Bowl in that 83 draft. Jimbo, Willie Gault, Mike Richardson, 2nd round, Dave Dewerson, 3rd, Tom Thayer, 4th, Richard Dent, Mark Bortz, 8th round. Yes, folks, there were more than 7 rounds back then. That's just an incredible haul. I mean, you've hit so many key spots there. 3 starting offensive linemen, a superstar MVP defensive end, one of the best sackers in NFL history. Right out of the gate, line of scrimmage. Unbelievable. All right, let's talk about this game coming up. So we listened to Caleb Williams. Bears did not practice on Thursday. They had a walkthrough, so we're not even going to go into the injury situation at all. So I don't know who's going to be available, who's not by the time this thing drops. And by the way, we're brought to you by United. Good news, Chicago. United Airlines is getting brand new planes with all the bells and whistles like Bluetooth connectivity, screens at every seat, and room for everyone's roller bag. United, proud to fly the Chicago Bears, and you too. I want to know what you thought of both Thomas Brown and Caleb Williams, different topics, but the biggest one is one that you've brought up many times since the end of the last game that the Bears played against San Francisco, was a second time around in the division for Caleb Williams. What Brian Flores may have held back, what he's going to spring on him now, because I went back and they did not blitz a lot in that game. He might in this one, because the environment's going to be insane. They're going to be wearing all white. First time in team history they're wearing white helmets. It's an ice out, whatever they've kind of made the game out to be. I think it's going to be a raucous environment.
It always is on Monday Night Football. No matter what you want to say about that specific game and whomever's playing, is a nation of football fans are watching that game. And I think when you have what the Bears are suffering through and what Caleb is about to do in the course of his career, there's a lot of people that have interest in him. And I like the confidence and the surety of Thomas Brown, knowing that he's going to get this thing turned around. He's making the correct adjustments, and he knows what he has to do in order to work against a Brian Flores-led defense. And then Caleb, he even mentioned it. He's never experienced a losing streak like this before. And there's nothing more than wanting to be responsible, one of the players responsible for turning this thing all around. And I really admire for Caleb. He's not denying the fact that they're in a difficult stretch right now, but he's not accustomed to this. And this is not the way he's going to define himself. And so I think it's going to be super interesting, because this is the first time in a player's career that you do play the same opponent twice in one season. And, we've all been through it. I went through it as a pro myself, and you kind of going, okay, this guy's not as good as I thought he was, or man, this guy can cover ground and read a little bit better than I thought he could. Or I noticed this blitz in the first game. Are they going to try to use it again? I know where the vulnerability of this protection is, and I want to see how they line up against it. So there's different rhythms to this game. Do you want to break the huddle immediately, go to the line of scrimmage so you have plenty of time to read? Or do you want to break the huddle late and go to the line of scrimmage and stay with what you have called in the huddle and see if you can take advantage of the chess game part of it? There's going to be so many interesting topics that we're going to be able to talk about after this game, but I think there's a ton of interesting topics that we're going to be able to think about before this game.
One thing that really impresses me, and as a rookie in particular, because we've seen rookies crumble under this kind of pressure, right? Not winning, it's going sideways. He's not moping. He gets up there as confident as he was the moment he walked in the building. I am impressed with that. And that's just not the podium when he's answering questions. It's walking around the building. It's seeing him on the, it's a very interesting perspective I have on that.
Right. And kind of as a Bears fan, it encourages me more. As a Bears, ex-player, I'm excited what the future holds for him. And I think when you have his type of confidence walking around the locker room, it spills over to a lot of those young guys that are going to be here for quite a while. So there's a lot of interesting ways that you can look at Caleb Williams whether you're an active veteran with him or you're an active young guy beginning a career with him. He carries himself and the confidence oozes out of him. And so to me, that's super encouraging. And I know we talked a lot about the 85 team and the makeup of that team. McMahon, he was the most confident guy I've ever seen walk into a locker room. He was so self-assured of how to play football, how to read defenses, and how to take advantage of that era of NFL passing game and NFL football. There are similarities in the confidence between the two.
Have a new or gently used coat laying around? Head to your local Jewel Osco until February 10th and donate one of your new or gently used coats to the 36th annual Chicago Bears Coat Drive. Help keep Chicagoans warm this winter. Time for our Geico Gives You More football stat of the week, and it's one that was asked to Thomas Brown. A lot more motion, upwards of 10% more motion before the snap. And Thomas said, hey, man, you can't be static. He's questioned defensive coaches. Hey, what's harder to deal with? Yes. You know, when you got guys moving back and forth, the defense has to start thinking about what they're doing, or is it just window dressing? And I think that's a big change to try and create separation for routes and these receivers running those routes.
I think it gives you a lot more pre-snap tells, like in a poker game. So if you got motion that's associated to a run game, you know exactly who's going to be responsible for who at the point of attack if you have an outside zone run play. If you have some type of exotic pass or a pass that you've thrown 1,000 times this year, and now you set a player in motion, you understand what the coverage is going to be. So now the quarterback understands is how quickly or how much that he can put trust in the protection to give himself a little time. There's so many things that now that Caleb is repetitively said all these plays throughout the course of his time in the NFL, now he's getting that second and third understanding of exactly what the team can offer you, what the offense can offer you according to the defense that you're seeing.
Some quarterbacks, they don't love being able to see and throw over the middle of the field. They'd rather work the outside, the numbers. Others are just the opposite. And then you got the mobile quarterbacks who use the entire field at their pleasure, which I believe that's Caleb's. What's more dangerous? Because Brock Purdy really was something against Bears zone defense, work in the middle of the field mostly. That was a well-schemed attack. I don't know what they have planned with Kevin O'Connell this time around with that quarterback, Sam Darnold, who's hanging in the pocket and doesn't mind. It doesn't appear – you would think a guy who's been through a tough time would mind a muddy – he does not. Like, if they're around his feet, he's not jumping out of there, and he's waiting in there at the last second to make things happen.
You have to trust your protection that they're going to give you the allotted time according to the route that you've already called in the huddle, and you know where the landmarks to 1, 2, and 3 receivers and then check down are all going to be. So because you've done it repetitiously, you know what you need beforehand for the play to be successful. And in terms of routes across the middle, I like the efficiency of routes across the middle if Caleb gets the ball into the hands of the receiver where they're upright and on the run, because now you're turning them into the playmakers that they've been blessed to be. And now if you make one player miss in center field, you're talking about searching out the goal line now. If you're talking about a real small window along the sideline, when you have a defensive back, the football, you make the catch, it puts the defensive back in position to already make the tackle. So I think the Bears, when you have Cole Kmet, you have DeAndre Swift, you have Keenan Allen, you have Rome, and you have DJ, I think every one of these guys are capable of catching any offering that's called in the huddle. But to me, as a football fan, there's nothing like a crossing route in full stride, and then all of a sudden you put that offensive player in a winning position rather than a stalled position.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's all about placement, where that ball is. You don't break stride. Yeah.
Right.
Tastes like Miller time. Catch. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. I don't know if you've noticed this. The big 3 receivers, they're all at 80-plus targets.
And
I think people would like, wait, what? Yeah, they've kind of caught up, right? DJ, Keenan, and Rome. Rome's got over 80 targets.
All right, can I ask you this? How many targets does Cole have?
Not nearly that many.
You don't know that off
it's
the top of your head, right?
It's in the 50s.
Okay, but so at before the season ever got underway, Jeff, I remember us doing a lot of different podcasts and just different interviews, and we are talking about how is Caleb, a rookie quarterback, going to be responsible for distributing the football with these types of receivers. And here we are 3/4 of the way through the season, and they're all at or near the same number of catches. So that's showing you a responsible quarterback and not necessarily trying to feed players, but they're being fed when their opportunity presents themselves during the course of a game. And I like what I'm seeing, but the only reason I asked you the Cole question is because I wish Cole was a little bit more involved inside those 80 catches.
All right, well, he's got 50. He's caught 42 passes. High percentage. And DJ's at 104, and the other two guys are in the 80s.
Right. So again, I like the number. I like the numbers by all of them in what they've been able to accomplish so far. But I don't know what it is about the tight end position, and you see how you see what Cole is capable of being. So I just want to be able to say, okay, 3 weeks ago I was saying I want to see more targets for Keenan Allen, right? Yeah. And
that's happened.
And he's been getting his targets. As this season concludes, I want to see a continuous targeted Cole Kmet to make sure that he gets the due and his value that he can add to this football team.
Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Illinois, right here at home, driving access toward healthier communities through it all. A man who hasn't got a ton of targets this year and only a couple catches against the Bears. He's only scored one touchdown, and that's Justin Jefferson. He's been used as a decoy. Last week, he was not. He was dangerous, so was Jordan Addison in their win. Jordan Addison had a big game against the Bears at Soldier Field. Now, as was the case with Thomas Brown asked about it, Jefferson's a problem because he creates so much for everybody else also. So, but then you want to go, and he's still going to beat you if you go to him a lot. He's a dangerous man. That's exactly right. So how would you defend? How would you defend him on Monday night?
You have to have a guy that is willing to have an unselfish attitude in the way he carries himself in the locker room if he's only targeted a minimal amount of times, and then the tight end or the assistant wide receiver is getting targeted a bunch. So, that's always something that you have to walk around on eggshells with the personality of some of these guys. But winning's winning. And I think that breeds an enthusiastic locker room, no matter if you're targeted double digit multiple weeks in a row or someone else is getting double digit targets because you're grabbing a lot of attention. But I think John Hoke and all the defensive back coaches have done a nice job against Justin Jefferson. And let's see how it goes this game, because Addison had an enormous game against him the first time around, and you're going to have to limit his exposure.
All right, this is a crazy thing. So there's a lot of talk about the deep ball, right? The deep ball attempts, not like they're not looking for it. They're there. 21-plus air yards. What's your stat line? I'm shocked at something. Ready? So
yeah,
we talk about Caleb, but Patrick Mahomes has completed 7 passes, 21-plus air yards. Josh Allen, 14 of 46, just 30% completion on said throw. What does that statistic reveal on the deeper balls?
So Jeff Joniak's the offensive coordinator of Team X. Okay, all my routes are going to be run at 15 yards or more, or all my routes are going to be run at 7 to 10 yards. You know what my accuracy is going to be for the quarterback at 7 to 10 yards as opposed to my quarterback that's 15 yards or more? The number is going to be significantly less. And when we talk about yards after catch, we talk about first downs, Jeff. That's our key. Our key to success is getting my team first down. So I'm not worried about my quarterback throwing 70-yard bombs. I can go to pass, punt, and kick and get the kid to do that, but I need accuracy. I need a quarterback and the understanding of the time frame, how the ball's going to get out of his hands quickly enough to support the coverage. And now you look at the sophisticated pass rushings that they put up front now in the NFL.
You don't have time.
Sometimes you can have 8 guys, 7 guys. That you have more rushers than you have blockers. So it's part of the process of offensive football movement.
All right, so the number 1 yardage leader in that category, is Sam Darnold. It's just interesting to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's having a year. He's got over 800 yards on those kind of plays. But that so he's putting the ball up. They're going to get it. That's as simple as that.
Again, it doesn't surprise me because when you have Hawkinson who came aboard late, but you have you have Addison and you have Justin Jefferson, and you have Aaron Jones in the backfield. So there's football front portion of the defense to have an Aaron Jones and tight end awareness. And then the defensive backs are still playing off because you have two dynamic receivers like that. And so you do have the luxury. Aaron Jones is a good blocker. The tight end is a good blocker. You got 5 offensive linemen blocking. Now I got max protection. So let the kid rip it. And so it all goes according to where you're playing at and then who you have aboard your offensive team.
We're brought to you by PNC, official bank of the Bears. Final thought, key to the game, anything before we go?
The game, to me, is going to be the defensive front, including the linebackers, where they put that uncomfortable pressure on Darnold to see if he throws a couple errant passes early in the game where maybe you can create an extra possession or two. And then the consistency of 4 quarters harassment of the quarterback is what I need to see. Because when you talk about Montez Sweat and you got Jacob Green and you got Darrell Taylor and you got Greg Hardy and you got DeMarcus Walker, you have a stable of guys that can rush from the outside to put the quarterback in a contained position. You still need some pressure up front, but if I'm talking about pass rushers on this football team, it's about all the guys who can rush from the outside.
Darnold's been sacked 40 times. We talk about Caleb the 50. I mean, it's high 56, but he's been sacked 40 times. So you can get to him.
They've had some offensive tackle concerns throughout the year, and so that's why I'm kind of highlighting the outside rushers here. And when I talk about the mix of rushers, listen, if you got to activate Dominique Robinson and you have a Greg Hardy and then you have all the other guys you mentioned, if I can put at least one fresh pass rusher in every down and distance, and that's going to rush the passer, okay? That's what you're going to do. I do think that you can create a little dysfunction in the offense and out of the quarterback position if you keep them guessing who is going to be the designated pass rusher on this specific play.
All right, that's going to wrap up podcast 119, the Bears Etc. podcast. Special thanks to 85 Super Bowl winning Bears wide receiver Willie Gault. For Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please subscribe now to the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bear down, everybody.